Now when the water's in the tank, it'll have different levels. The bottom level, which will have sediment, is called the anaerobic level. And basically that sediment is healthy to the overall well-being of the water supply, believe it or not. So we don't want to disturb the sediment level. What we do want to do is draw our water from the cleanest portion of the storage tank, which is usually a few centimeters below the surface. And how do we do that? We do that with floating suction. So the suction is sitting on a float designed to hang just below the surface, and as the water is depleted, the suction goes down. When the water in the tank is gone, you have to find another means of supplying your water needs. Pumps. Here we have two kinds of pumps. There's a third kind that I should explain, but our submersible pump has proved to be the most valuable to our rainwater harvesting. Basically, we find that it's more efficient being in the tank and forcing the water up. We find that it's quiet, that you don't hear them running. All the capacity that you could ever want is in these different pumps. This suction pump here, or jet pump, is outside the tank. And it's basically the same principle. It's just that different pumps have different applications. The third type of pump that we want to have, you know about, is called a crossover pump, meaning if you're depleting all the water out of your rain barrel and you still need to have supply, the crossover pump will automatically switch to an alternate source, whether that's well water or mains water. And then if the tank fills up again, it will favor the tank. So it has the intelligence built in. All of these pumps actually have what's known as demand capability. What that means is the pump is always on, and as soon as you turn the tap, it turns on. It understands the need for pressure. It'll pump these bigger ones 12 gallons a minute or more. It'll pump just a minute amount of water if you just crack your tap open a little bit too. So it understands the need for pressure. It's always available, and you can never run them dry. So these are all new, relatively new to the rainwater harvesting industry, and they're perfect for what we're trying to do because you don't need a full-fledged pressure system. You just need an intelligent pump. And then a meter at this point is an excellent time to gauge your usage. So right after the pump, you have your tank, your pump, your meter. And then another component after the meter is your post filter. Post filters are designed to remove the TDS, which is your total dissolved solids. They're usually canisters with the filter in there, and they vary in capability. The finest ones will remove particles down to 5 microns, meaning those dust particles that may get by can be removed. I'm going to speed this up just a little bit. And also charcoal filters are used quite often for quality. They remove and improve the taste and remove the unpleasant flavor. Sanitation. Okay, one of the last items here is sanitation purification. We have microorganisms that we have to look out for. Cryptosporidium, Giardia, coliforms, and viruses. We have inorganic chemicals that are in the air. Some of them quite scary. 2,4-D, arsenic, all this stuff is a potential contaminant. And to be sure that you're not working with bad water, you need to get a hold of the testing organizations. Follow the protocol in taking samplings and get the samples to them so that you can decide whether this water is worth carrying on with or not. When you're testing, it's nice to know what you're looking for, because if you know what you're looking for, you can test for that specific thing. You don't need broad testing spectrum testing, because once you're relatively safe or sure about it, you can get kits online to test for specific contaminants. And this way you can have that in your own hands and keep track of your water. Okay, this is just the last look at your system. This is the first flush diverter here. Now, I didn't explain it thoroughly, but what happens is the first bit of water that comes off the rain event drops down into this canister, and this will hold your contaminants. Once that canister is full, a ball valve shuts it off and the water goes into the tank. First flush diversion is pretty important. I don't see any systems out there that don't. That's not exactly true. If you don't get enough rain, if you're completely without much rain and very few contaminants, you can do without the first flush diverter. Okay, the main things about harvesting water in Saskatchewan is our climate. We're going to have to watch out for frost. We have very low volumes of rain, really. I mean, we're known as dryland farmers. We don't have extra rain, so we have to be very careful about saving every little drop. We need to become a little more active with getting changes to get incentives together for rainwater harvesting. Leadership is required. We have to talk to people about it and get it out into the public field. And of course, municipal guidelines are changing. Even now, Ontario has developed a whole new set of guidelines. And recently, Calgary has allowed flushing toilets with rainwater, which is something that is fairly new. But I think the main thing for me is because rain is really a valuable commodity and water, generally clean water, is undervalued here, we need to wake up and smell that. Similar to coffee, rain has a wake-up call to it. And this is me enjoying the rain. The last thing that when we talked about doing this is having a certain testimonial about our experience with this. And although we've been at it just 3 years, we started out just with a small seasonal system, and now we're looking at more and more, right down to the point of drinking. So I really do believe my time has run. Before you leave, I will offer you a pamphlet or a worksheet, really. The worksheet is a planning and design worksheet. If you follow through this A, B, and C, you can get your potential, work out your needs, and get some decisions on how your tank and your system will go together. But that's all I have for the moment, and if there's questions, I'll be able to answer them, hopefully. Willing to answer them. Anybody?
A couple of hundred.
Yeah, no doubt.
So how difficult, I definitely want to do this on this building as we talked about last time we talked. How, like, if I do it, my idea was to have a 3-season tank that would be above ground. Only because I don't know what the extra cost is of putting underground. I don't have room in the basement that you were talking about. So we've already got a regular water tank we have in the basement, so we'd be using up way too much space. So. But how do you make that decision? What's involved with that decision?
Seasonal tank. I think decommissioning is one of the big deals there, because you're going to have to do something with it when it drains out.
Yeah.
What we have is a series of bladder tanks, 220-gallon bladder tanks, and I hook 3 of them up in unison, in series. And I have 660 gallons for irrigation. The other types of tanks are your freestanding poly tanks. They're very good. They're the supplier right in town. They have green ones, which are UV protected, so that you need to keep the light out of the rainwater to stop photosynthesis. The size of the tank, again, with your calculation on your rainfall, you'll be able to come up with it. And if it's outside, you'll probably get a big one in there.
Yeah. We don't use near the amount of water you calculated there. We're closer to 75 liters per person per day.
Great.
Yeah, we are. We got all the low flow fixtures.
Yeah, I believe you. I actually think that you could do really well with the rainwater running your whole system here.
So what's safe to put on it? Like you talk about showering and drinking. Would you do all that with rainwater?
Well, I've got some clients you know, that has swore up and down, for years they've been drinking it without any type of.
That's true, yeah.
And I just know from what I've learned is that why take the chance? I mean, the birds are out there, and the rodents are out, the squirrels are on the roof, and they're going to leave Giardia. You know, they're going to leave Cryptosporidia. I don't know exactly where it all comes from, but a lot of it comes from birds. So no, it's not safe until you do those things. Yeah.
Until you do
which
flushing
things?
toilets.
Which things? Well, first of all, your UV is the single most important thing to sterilize it from really bad critters. What the UV does is, first of all, to be effective, it has to have the TDS is pulled out of it, so it's relatively without particle. Then the light shines through there, hits these critters, and mutates them. Basically, it changes their DNA. So when they can no longer reproduce and copy themselves. So really, it just strips them out and it makes it safe to drink. Now we use chlorine for that in the big world. And it's not necessary. The thing with chlorine is that it gloms onto whatever it's trying to kill, and you've got a big TDS. It's residual. So some people take chlorine, put it in contact in the tank for 45 minutes or so, it needs contact time. Take it out, strain out all the chlorine in the particles, and then they have clean rainwater, or clean water. You can do that with any source of water. It doesn't have to be rainwater. So for your situation on a you probably are you can flush toilets with it safely, even though some bylaws do not allow rainwater use in the house. There's no scientific evidence to prove that there's any jeopardy in putting rainwater through the toilet.